Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissick and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissick.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Good morning, Dana. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. I said I'm a little sad this morning because my friends were here for the weekend, and you probably feel this way too when people leave. Actually, you told me that before. So now today I was like, oh, I'm kind of sad.
I know. It's terrible. I have learned people do not come to the beach house or anywhere on a trip where we are and leave before me.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure they always come at the end of my trip so we all leave together. Otherwise, I have this really low day right after everyone leaves. It's the weirdest thing, but I don't know why, but I do. Yes. So I know I feel your pain today.
Yeah. So anyway, you're at the beach house, I see.
I am at the beach house, and I was just telling you before we clicked the show on, I was so excited about my neighbor because our big house next door, the big $10 million one, sold. And so our neighbor came over and introduced himself. We were all excited. He was a past Zoom exec, and we're like, oh, this is so cool. A nice family next door, and they partied all night last night till 3 a.m. So I said, along with my eye mask, I'm now going to have to get some earplugs. But I'm hoping they were just breaking the house in. I'm hoping they were just, kind of having a party for everybody to see their nice house.
Wait, is this going to be their second? This is a vacation home for them, or are they living there full time?
I think he might be living there full time. His kids go to school here, so I think might be living here full time. So I don't know. Maybe he was gone and his kids had a party. I'm going to go with that one.
Hopefully so. We're
kind of across the way, so we're not the neighbor right next on one side of them because we have a little, that little driveway thing that people pull up to. That's kind of a street. Actually, it's not a driveway; it's a street. So their music was pretty loud because we heard it all the way over here. And we had just said, "Oh, we're so excited that that's one big house." If it was 3, you'd probably stand a chance that somebody would rent it and have a party. But anyway, we're going to just go with it was a housewarming party, and it went late.
I hope so.
Yes, I'm at the beach house, and matter of fact, I think I've ran across this 2 times lately. The importance of being bored, how important it is to get bored a little bit. And it's so funny because I notice the minute we start getting bored, we start thinking, oh, who could come out,
Yep.
And I told Jim this time, I said, you know what? First of all, 2 weeks here kind of freaked me out in the very beginning. I was kind of thinking, I'm not really looking forward to it. And that's kind of crazy because it's beautiful here. But I think I was more worried about, that's a lot of downtime. That's not that I don't work when I'm here, because I do, but there's also a lot of downtime. But then I was reading this book, and I was trying to think what the name of the book is. But it talked about the benefits of being bored and how we come up with our best ideas. We dream.
Creativity starts when you're bored. When you're busy, you don't have time for the creativity. Yeah.
Yes. Which made me think about our future kids and all their technology, which I do a little technology, but I don't do a ton. So I'm kind of in that cusp of people that I'm a boomer, but I learn technology, but I'm not so into it that it's my whole life, which thank God. Because that helps me a little bit. But anyway, and then I've noticed we've been here since last Wednesday, and I've noticed every day I'm having more and more ideas and, things I want to accomplish. And, and I was thinking yesterday, watching people go by on the boardwalk. I remember the day I ran by on this very boardwalk and said, I don't even know how many years ago that was, probably 20 plus years ago, and said, man, one of these days I'm going to own one of these houses. Yeah. So I wondered yesterday as people went by and they admired the house and they'd say, oh man, you got a great place. Man, what a beautiful house you have. I thought, I wonder how many of those will go home and say, I'm going to have one of those one day. Right?
Yep.
What percentage will just say, man, that was a great house, and just walk by. Anyway, so getting bored is good. It kind of makes you think and dream and figure out what you want to achieve and where you want to go. And
do you read fiction books?
I try. Is that the ones that? Okay, I'm really confused. Is it true or this is one of those the chicken or what does that even mean? Does that mean it's not true?
not true. Yeah, fake stuff.
That's so confusing. Why would you have non in front of the one that is?
I know. I know.
Like that. Okay, yeah. I've probably honestly read 3 in my whole life. Isn't that terrible?
No, same. I don't read fiction books either, but we went to Adam's mom's for 4th of July, and his stepdad said, my whole life, all I did was read business books. And he said, and everybody kept saying, you don't just need to read business books. Your mind needs to take a break and blah, 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 blah. And he said, and every time you come to this lake house, you bring 4, because, I always have my stack. He's like, you bring 4 or 5 stacks of business books with you. And so anyway, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to read a fiction book just because I want to tell him that I read one. And so I'm looking at it right now. I bought this book Where the Crawdads Sing.
Oh, I've heard that one's good.
Okay, well, it's been sitting here for 2 months, and Adam said, why don't you just take a day? He's trying to tell me to do it today. I'm like, no, I have too much to do today, and read this fiction book. But I thought, I really do, because it was on Oprah's, Reese Witherspoon. It's supposed to be, like, great. And I was just at Costco and saw it and picked it up.
Yeah, that one's on my list, too, as I add fiction books. My favorite one I ever read was Redeeming Love.
Oh, I've never read that.
It's based off a biblical lady.
Really?
But it's like that non-true. It's it's not true. Anyway, I read it in Mexico when we took our real estate team to Mexico and couldn't put it down. And everybody said that's the way it would be. Anyway, it's really good. She got a bunch of books, but that one was really good. And then I read one called Inheritance that I heard on a podcast. That one was really good.
I'm having to write those down. My goal is normally like, how many business books can I read a year? So now I'm going to try to do like 4 nonfiction or fiction. I mean, yeah, see, now you've got me confused. Fiction books a year.
The not true ones.
Yeah. Crap. Yeah, but yeah.
That's hard for me too. And like Dan Sullivan, I hear him talk about reading mysteries and stuff like that. He's also an avid reader on the internet and all kinds of stuff. You can tell he's just so well spoken. He reads stuff I don't read for sure, but lots of stuff, research on the internet, all that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, I probably should take a break every so often. It probably would feel pretty good.
Mm-hmm. That's what Adam's stepdad keeps telling us. He's like, y'all just need to take just a break and have your brain do something different. I'm like, well, maybe.
Yeah. Well, you can give it a try. Good luck.
I'll let you know how it goes. It'll take me 2 years to finish that book.
Yeah, that's true. I guess if we had to tell somebody about it or teach on it, we'd figure it out, right?
I would rather my mindless activity. I went to bed last night and then woke up this morning looking at the twice a year at Nordstrom anniversary sale. It's getting ready to happen. So I've already got everything in my buggy from the little twice a year Nordstrom anniversary sale.
Ooh, I'm going to do that too today.
Oh,
they start today?
Well, if you have a Nordstrom card, it does. Otherwise, it starts like on the 14th or something. But I mean, I do some Christmas shopping on that usually too.
Oh, yes. I'm going to do that today. Thanks for that tip.
Oh, yeah. I know. Adam said, how many things are in your buggy? I said, I think I've got 19. He said, how many of them are not for you? I said, a decent amount, actually.
Oh, you Christmas shop like me. 1 for y'all, 4 for me. 1 for y'all, 3 for me. 1 for y'all, 2 for me.
That's exactly what I do.
I'm actually having my closet redone right now.
Oh, are you?
Instead of cleaning out, because I can't stand the thought of it. And I'm like, what is wrong with me that I can't get rid of clothes?
I'm the same way.
I grew up so poor with no clothes. All my clothes were given to me. I'm going to blame it on this, whether this is it or not. But I shop like Jimmy Fishes. I mean, seriously, it's my hobby.
Same.
And I don't think I do, but it's like I do. My closet says I do. And my sister
says you do. Yeah.
And every once in a while, she'll start to want to complain about it. I'm like, Betty, that's job security. Do not start on my closet. That's not helping. It's kind of like picking on a fat person about not eating. That's going to help them not eat. Trust me.
No.
So don't do it. It's not a strategy that works. So anyway, so I have her labeling and counting everything.
Do you?
It's gross how many things I have of the same kind of thing.
I'm right there with you. If you knew how many black pairs of Lulu pants I have, oh my God, it's bad.
come out with one with a pocket, so I got to get rid of all those others because they don't have pockets. But I do love giving to the Salvation Army, so it has helped me with her making stacks and putting numbers on them. I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous. So I have like given more to Salvation Army, and that makes me feel better because that's where I used to get my clothes from. They'd bring me.
I know you've said that.
So I'm like, take them some clothes. So, but it's still real hard. I don't know. I mean, I read the book of tidying up, and she didn't do it for me, and I get inspired for about 10 seconds, and then I'm like, crap, I can't go through all this crap. It's too much.
Same. Oh my gosh.
All right. So we're going to talk about our favorite podcast today.
Yes. Okay.
So why don't you kick us off? And we're both podcast junkie, although I've kind of, in the last week or two, I've kind of, for some reason, gotten off the podcast, and I don't know why. But anyway, I've got my favorites that I always go back to.
Yeah.
My habit is to listen to them while I stand in front of my red light therapy every night in my little shaker machine, whatever that's called, whatever those vibrate.
Great idea. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm multitasking that way. And it's a good way to get I can at least get one full episode in while I'm doing it.
Yeah, I mainly listen in the car, a lot in the car. Yeah. Okay. So, oh gosh. So I have my regular go-tos, and then I have some that I listen to here and there. But a couple of the ones lately that I have not been able to stop listening to. So the first one that I love is Building a Storybrand with Donald Miller.
Ooh.
And I loved his book, Build a Storybrand. And his podcast is so good. And actually, Linda, you need to listen to this one. And I should have sent this to you. So he had one. I love all of his. He just did one recently about building a great culture for your company and a couple other things. But the one that I've loved so much lately, I've listened to it like 3 times, is why it was episode 211. And he had somebody on to talk about why you need a personal brand. And actually, I instantly thought of you. You've got to go listen to it. I'm going to send it to you right now. Actually, I'm going to text it to you. But it was, he had this guy on episode 211, why you need a personal brand. And I love Donald Miller's podcast in general, just because any great business tells a great story. And I mean, and I love to listen to other people's stories, and I love to see how businesses tell their story. And I don't know anybody who teaches people to do that better than Donald Miller. And so I love his podcast. But this one episode, and I'm telling you, like, his last 3 or 4 episodes have been so good. But the one on why you need a personal brand is so good. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And he talks about how all these people, like, sometimes people think they just want to be an influencer, and so they have a personal brand. But when you're a business person, he said you still need a personal brand. Like, the importance of that is massive. And I wish I had my notes in front of me, but I don't. But I took so many notes on that one. And so lately I have been just any one of his episodes of Donald Miller's I've listened to and have pages of notes on. So that's been one lately I've been really hot and heavy on.
Great. Okay. So that one's on my list. I have so many. So one of my favorites is The Joy of Procrastination. I think I've probably talked about this one before with Dan Sullivan and Dean Jackson.
Yep.
And it's interesting because I spend majority of my week talking to top agents. And one of the things that I think just anybody, all of us struggle with is procrastination. And I'm always fascinated by certain things because I don't feel like any of us don't know what we need to do to be successful. I don't think that's ever anybody's problem. I don't ever get on the phone with anybody and says, you know what, I just don't really know what to do to be successful. That's not the problem is they know what to do, but they can't seem to get themselves to do it. So a perfect example of that would be, I bet you 99% of the people I talk to struggle with, they want more business, but they're not picking up the phone with their past clients.
Yep.
Whatever reason, right? So there's procrastination around that. So I love their podcast about procrastination. I think we all struggle with it. And I think if we can kind of crack that code, then I think we'll all be a whole lot more successful. Because I think when we procrastinate, it's trying to tell us something super important. Number one, what we're procrastinating on is probably the most important thing we need to be doing. And then I would say 90 for me, 99% of the time I'm procrastinating, I need to place a who in there somewhere. In other words, well, I'll give you an example. One of the top agents I talked to this week needed to call the database more, really felt like that he needed to call the database more. And I said, so let me ask you this. What if you had someone, because I'm one of those, if I'm not doing something, I'm going to start figuring out, I'm not going to dwell on why I'm not doing it. I'm going to start figuring out how can I get it done.
Right.
So what I want you to do is list 3 ways that you could get that done. Think out of the box. One might be your assistant. I said, well, let me ask you a question. If one of your past clients was on the phone, would you take that call? And he said, well, absolutely, I'd take the call. I said, okay, then great. Why don't you have your assistant sitting in the other room? Yep. Say, hey, got John Smith on the phone. They call them, and then they're on the phone. You have to talk to them, right? But that's the kind of, to me, out of the box thinking we have to do. Not sit and spin our wheels. I wonder how long we sit with an issue that we need to solve that we're procrastinating on, that if we just said, okay, I'm going to list 3 or 4 ways it can get done, and I'm just going to go try one. What difference does it make? How it gets done? Instead, I think what we do is we spend our time beating ourselves up that we won't do it. Well, that's a waste of time and energy. So I love the joy of procrastination, because I think procrastination is an issue we all struggle with.
Yep.
It's one of our biggest things that hold us back. So that would be one of my top ones that I love listening to.
I've actually never listened to that one. So I'm excited to go listen to that one. Yeah. Okay. My second one I wrote down is one I listen to every episode of anything that John Maxwell does, but I don't know if you've been listening lately, but he's done a month of Melvin, his dad. And so he's done, so he's on part 4 right now. So it's John Maxwell's leadership podcast, and he's on episode 4, and he's doing all the lessons and memories and great things that he's learned from his dad. And they're so good. So that's been one lately. I listen to all of John's, but yeah, and actually I haven't listened to part 4, and it's an hour and 6 minutes long. I just realized, so I'll have to listen to that one. And then he just finished up his lessons from watching the Michael Jordan's Last Dance, which were so good. The thing I love about John is, like, I watch those shows, or, those documentaries, and listen to these people, and I'm like, oh man, that was so inspirational. John watches them and is like, here's a 2-hour lesson that I created from all the things that I picked up that nobody else heard from, you know what I mean?
So true.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, it was so good. So that's like an always one for me. But lately just been really, really, really good.
I love it. Yeah. And I need to put John back on my list. I have, and I do sometimes, and then I'll get off of it. So I need to put John's back on my list too. I think we're both going to come out with 5 more podcasts to put back on our list.
So much for the reading fiction books. We'll be listening to all these podcasts. And don't forget, John had that really good one, Vision and Values, with Casey Crawford, the CEO of Movement Mortgage. And that was a great one. Really great one. He's had good people on. He had Simon Sinek too.
Life just gets in the way of our learning.
I know.
Too much other stuff to do. Okay. So I put number 2 for me, Think Like a CEO with Gary Keller. And, I think it's because I love simplifiers. I love people who take something complicated and make it simple. And I believe that's one of the greatest strengths that Gary Keller has.
Yeah.
And I think we sometimes miss it because it is so simple, but his lessons and the way he does things, they're simple, but not easy. In other words, he just, he talks about what you should focus on, getting clarity, getting things down to one thing that matters the most. And I think for whatever reason, to me, complication makes things foggy and hard. And maybe it's maybe that helps me procrastinate when things are too congested. So for me, what I like about Gary's podcast is he really makes everything super simple. Not that it's easy, but if you just keep going back to how simple he makes everything, and if you could figure out, okay, where am I making all these things that I do, my businesses that I run, so complicated? Mm-hmm. Or where am I missing the one thing that matters the most?
Yeah.
Or what are the things that are most important I should be focusing on? and what's all the other crap that keeps getting in the way that really doesn't move the needle.
Yeah. Yeah, I had Think Like a CEO / The One Thing, because both of those are I love both of those podcasts. I had both of those on my list too. And the other thing I love about Gary's about Think Like a CEO is, again, Gary is a great storyteller. I mean, he always will relate things to a story. And sometimes you hear him, it's funny because I can think of so many times I'll think, oh, I've heard him tell the story 15, 20 times now. But it's actually that's a strategic thing on his part, and Donald Miller talks about that. But yeah, I agree. The simplicity of Think Like a CEO, and just hearing his stories and modeling after him is great. And then The One Thing, I had that down because they have great guests. I mean, they have had some really, really great. Jeff has had some awesome guests on there, and I always get something great from The One Thing.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
All right. So what's your second one?
Okay, so let's see. My next one. Okay, gosh, I have so many. I'll go ahead and share. Definitely Craig Groeschel's leadership podcast. I listen to that he only does one a month, and I hate it. I wish he did more, because his is one that I'm like, man, I wish I could get more of his. But he's always on my list, and he just started a series on defeating the 4 enemies of growth. And it's really, he's only had the first episode. It just came out last week, but that one was really good. He also had Michael Hyatt, Vision Driven Leader, on there recently, and it was great. He also I loved another one that he just did, Becoming a Leader Who Anticipates. And I kind of got a lot from that, because it just talks about being proactive instead of reactive, and being able to really anticipate when things are going to happen and stuff like that was really great. But Craig is always one of my favorites, and I wish he had more than one a month. But yeah, his is the Craig Groeschel Leadership Podcast. I never miss an episode.
That's interesting. There must be some kind of strategy behind that, because I have one that I like that I put on here called Intermittent Fasting Stories.
Yeah.
And I feel like that one doesn't come out enough. I think she does it. It feels like she does it every 2 weeks, but maybe it's every once a week. But I always feel like I've already listened to it, and I go try to find another one, and it's like there is not another one. So
yeah.
So there must be some kind of strategy by not doing it so much, right? Once a week, or maybe stretching it out and doing it once a month. So I put Intermittent Fasting Stories as one of mine. I am so intrigued. As you know, it's my hobby to understand and learn, about, and you and I talked about this a little bit before, that how much more health is going to be important to people after COVID, just like wealth will be. And, but for me, it's been a fascination, for years. It's kind of my side hobby where I study, how to have the best health. How do we live longer and live that way in a healthy state, not just live longer. So I've always been into bioidentical hormones, genetic testing to figure out your unique you.
Yep.
So I love intermittent fasting has saved my life, really seriously. Wish I'd have found it 30 years ago. So I'm into any books and I think I've read every single one that I get my hands on intermittent fasting. And there's a good podcast. There's 2, one Intermittent Fasting, and these are both by the same people. And then there's one that's called Intermittent Fasting Stories, because I like to hear a good story.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I would say that one's probably number 3 for me, because I tend to watch for that episode and look for it each week.
Okay. Yep. I love that. Who's the person? Who's the?
Jen Stevens is
that's right.
On both of them. She has a co-host on the intermittent fasting, just the intermittent fasting one. That's Melanie Avalon. And Melanie has a podcast too, but hers goes deeper into real biohacking health experts. So you really have to be into kind of biohacking for hers. But I am, and so I listen to hers also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My friend Josh likes that stuff too. I'll have to tell him about that one. He likes all that stuff too. Okay, my next one is the Ed Mylett Show. Do you ever listen or read anything from Ed Mylett?
No, Ed what?
Ed Mylett, Mylett, Ed Mylett. He actually met him through Adam. Adam paid some ridiculous amount of money at some GoBundance bidding thing to get to have like a dinner with Ed Mylett or something like that. I don't know. He's like some sort of a billionaire or something. And Adam was like, liked his story. And so then he spoke at something else and I heard him with Adam. But anyway, he has a really great podcast and he has good people on. But he had a guy recently named Trevor Mowat, I think. I don't know how to, I can't remember. I'm trying to find it right now. It was about destroying negative thoughts. And he just has really great guests on his. I mean, really great guests. He just had a guy too who he brought on who talked about how he was just like a movie producer doing something and came out with this idea. And I don't even remember what it was, but he made $3 million from it. And it was, he gave it all to charity. I don't know. It was this great story, but anyway, and then he's had like spiritual healing people on there lately. All kinds of really great guests. So anyway, I really like his podcast and I've just been listening to it probably since like COVID started, over the last couple of months and really liked it. So it's a good one.
Awesome. Okay. So my fourth one I put is book more. And I also like to read books about how people write their books, book, BOOKMORE.
Oh, okay.
I forget who the guy's name is, but it's kind of record, publish, and profit. And it talks about how you can take your content that you're already creating and then do things with it with the people you want to be a hero to.
Oh, that's I need to listen to that. Actually, I just had a conversation about making content that you already have. What were the four things? Reoccurring, automatic, something else and something else. I got to find my notes. But it was like, if you can get your content to do these four things, evergreen. Oh, DARE was the acronym. What was the D? Oh, shoot. I can't remember.
Was it duplicate?
Maybe it was what was it? Shoot. Okay. I'll find it while you're doing your next one, because I know that I have this somewhere. But anyway, it was great. And they were talking about how to take your content and do exactly that, turn it into books and do all kinds of other stuff. Because that's like what all the, what did he say? He named all these publishers. I'm trying to look for it. I'll look for it while you're doing your next one.
Yeah. So yeah, I like listening to it because I like, number one, figuring out, how to use the content that you're already creating, how to use books, how to do books. I ultimately would love to help realtors who want to do a book. So part of my interest in learning all this is to learn how to help other people, because I've done books from super expensive ways to very cheap ways. And I think the way to do a book is changing, and the way to do a book depends on what your end result you want to do with that book. And so ultimately, I want to help realtors who want to do a book figure out, number one, what will do for you, and then how's the best way for us to help you get it done. So
I love that, Linda. And I found it was DARE's. So he said the perfect business model, if one could exist, is to be DARE's: digital, automated, reoccurring, evergreen, so it never goes out, and then scalable. And he said, really, there's not one that exists right now that's all of those things. However, Netflix is probably the closest.
That's interesting. Who said this?
This was in that Donald Miller, that episode on the one I want you to listen to on Donald Miller's podcast about why everybody needs a personal brand versus only having your business. But it is really, really, really great. He talks a little bit about the writing about doing books and stuff like that. But he said that most of the time, he said that with the digital, that one people are mastering more just because of COVID. But it's the automated and the reoccurring. But that's when he got into saying you really have no idea how much content you probably already have that you could make it automated or make it reoccurring. And then, of course, he said scalable is the part that is the hardest for people to figure out.
That's great. Yep. I'm definitely going to go listen to that.
You're going to love that episode. Yeah, you're going to love that.
Awesome. All right. And then I'll give my last one, and I'll let you give your last. Then the last one, I kind of have a tie between Business Wars and How I Built This.
Oh, I love those too. I forgot those on my list.
But I think there's a theme with them. And I think the theme that for realtors to get is we need to stop comparing ourselves to other realtors and compare ourselves to other successful businesses. So what I love about them is you're going to get to see the struggle that every big business built and went through to become a big business. And so I think for me, when I hear those struggles and those things, and I have similar struggles or similar obstacles, it makes me realize that I'm on the right track. That it's normal to have those kind of struggles and obstacles. Because I think a lot of times when we run into a struggle or obstacle, we see it like a brick wall, and that means we need to stop, or we stop altogether. And instead, if you just realize that that's a normal obstacle, all great businesses at some point probably have that obstacle, then you'll stay with it until you master it. And so I love both of those podcasts for that reason. I feel like they really share with you the struggles that each business went through to get where they are. And if you really listen, you'll hear some commonality between your struggles trying to build your real estate business and those businesses.
Totally.
And I be better served by finding great business people and models that we could emulate and follow, and just follow those models and not see that business as different because it's way bigger than ours. It's exactly the same. It's kind of the reason every time Gary starts his masterminds with us, he'll say, your biggest problem is you think what I do every day in my business is different than what you do every day in your business. And until you see yourself as the same as me, you're going to struggle with this. And that is so true.
Yeah.
Because we tend to say, well, that's different, and it's not different. It's exactly the same. So I think we could learn a lot from listening to other businesses' struggles and what they've gone through and what obstacles they have, because at some point we've either had those or will have those.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of what Jimmy said the other day when we were doing that Zoom. Rich people and poor people both have 24 hours in a day, and your job should be to figure out what the rich people are doing with their 24 hours.
Yeah, so true. I've thought about that so many times. It's like if everybody really thought it's the one common denominator we all have, and if there's anything in the world you want to accomplish, I just said this to a Zoom call I did the other day, if there's anything in the world you want to accomplish, all you got to do is find the people that have already done it and do exactly what they tell you to do.
Yep.
How simple. I don't know how much simpler any success could be. Easy, no. Simple, yes.
Yep,
right?
Totally agree.
And then somewhere between, getting the idea and getting it done, something happens. People, they just are either unwilling to do it, or they let their limited beliefs keep them from doing it, or whatever.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, I love those too. I listen to those mostly because Adam listens to those in the car all the time too. But yeah, those are two really good ones. Okay, so my last one is probably the Goal Digger podcast by Jenna Kutcher. And the reason why I love that one is because I think you can build a massive, powerful business from social media, and she tells you how to do it. And especially even for realtors, there are so many agents that I know that have no sphere of influence and have built a massive business because perception is reality, and they know how to do social media. And Jenna is, to me, like the Facebook, Instagram guru of all times. And I love hers because some of them are just so like quick and tactical. Like she'll do a 9-minute episode, and it's just like, here's exactly what you need to do. Go do it. And
you and I could never do it just a 9-minute. We keep saying,
we warmed up for 9 minutes today.
Our warm up was 9 minutes. That's exactly right.
Yeah, no, I love her podcast. She has some that are longer too. And she also has some good guests on. But anyway, anything that has to do with building a business through social media, she's always my go-to. I can't even tell you how many things I've bought of hers just to listen to because I love how she does social media. So that would be one I always recommend and I keep up with. She has an episode almost every day, honestly. So it's hard for me to keep up with hers. Yeah. But I will go back and listen to them and I'll look through the titles. The thing about hers is she always makes me realize how important titles are, because she has so many that it like the title has to really catch me in something that I'm needing. Then, but yeah, she's a great one.
Awesome. Oh gosh, I got me a bunch of new podcasts to listen. I love it. All right. So we're about out of time. Is there any final thoughts you'd want to add, Dana, today about our top podcast, or anything that you thought of since then as we wrap up?
I don't think so, but I would say if our listeners have ones that they love that we don't know about, tell us, email us, or post or comment on our social media so that we can share those also.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm always looking for new podcasts, which I did find one this week. I haven't started listening to it. I told you before I'm reading the book Tiny Habits by BJ Fogg. It is so good.
I'm going to get that today.
Please go get it. Because I don't know about everybody else in the audience, but I struggle. Sometimes I'll have a habit that I want to incorporate on my list for years and still not get it done. So I love, I don't know if BJ's a girl or boy, to be honest with you. Anyway, he or she will give you tactical ideas and things of how to get those habits in place and to stick. And I love it. So I did search, and they do have a podcast. So Tiny Habits, or at least maybe this person's interviewed them. I don't know, but Google it and you'll find some more information if you like the book. But I would just say, that's my new one I just found. I haven't had a chance to listen to yet.
Oh yeah. I just looked it up. It says the small changes that change everything. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really good book. It's, I'm going to finish it probably in the next day or so. And then I'm probably going to go buy the hard copy because it's on my Kindle. And I want to be.
I just pulled up they're comparing it to Atomic Habits, which is, one of my favorite books of all times.
Yes. So anyway, I love habits and helping you instill habits, because I believe what we accomplish in life has to do with our disciplines and our habits, and our discipline and habits don't just come easy or naturally. I think some of them you have to work a little harder at. So that's why I love anything to do with habits. But yes, give us your ideas on your favorite podcast. We'd love to hear them. And if you'd like to have a topic for Dana and I to talk about, or if you'd love to come on as a guest to Everything Life in Real Estate, just reach out to us at info@everythinglifeinrealestate. We'd love to hear either maybe a challenge you've got going, an opportunity you're faced with that we can help you with, or just any good questions that you may have that you'd like for us to answer on any of our episodes. And if you have a guest or you'd like to be a guest, just reach out to us and give us the information at info@everythinglifeinrealestate. So Dana, thank you. And I will see you next week.
Okay. See you then.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.